drugs are robbing our children of their future. Every 4.20 seconds, a teenager overdoses on bad drugs for the first time. More than 80% of high school students are using or selling illegal bad drugs right now. Kids are throwing so-called pill parties, where they trade prescription drugs like Prozac, ibuprofen, and estrogen like candy. Many of them are crying in hallways or smoking crack cocaine, while at the same time burning rolled-up paper and smashing windows. They are even turning into adult bullies, or worse, black people. America's drug crisis has reached the breaking point. But helping me lead a life without drugs is the foundation for a drug-free will, one of the biggest groups of lame weirdos on Earth. Drawing on years of my drug use, I hallucinate them giving presentations and wearing matching blue t-shirts. I see their campaigns all over the world, in all different languages. Everywhere I look, I can't stop seeing them. Passing out educational booklets covering my favorite drugs with scary fonts. The booklets are full of dangerous misinformation and terrifying propaganda, allowing the blue-shirted weirdos to harass people all over the world in the name of fighting the war on drugs. Nothing weird or cult-like about this. This is what normal people do. Hello folks, and welcome to another episode of Drug Mythbusters. Today we're going to be talking about something that was very influential in my youth, and I have a feeling it may have been an influence in your youth too. If the name Drug-Free World Foundation does not strike a bell for you, maybe their website will. This feels a lot like hell. And if the website doesn't jog your memory, perhaps their pamphlets will. Now, I'm just recording this on my phone, but you may remember these from your childhood. I mean, just look at this shit. Look at this skull. I mean, look at how scary mooking looks. Hey dude, wanna come over and mook later? Oh wait, you're on a respirator because of the oxygen tubes, lung disease from mooking. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I saw these pamphlets everywhere. We got them during our health classes. We got them at assemblies. I'll never forget the way these things were designed. They're really fascinating. Hello, this is Editing Room Will. I just noticed the skull in the background of this one, which seems to be a running theme in these. But then also we have like the demon version of the girl on the cover over here on the left. And then as always on these things, so you have the list of street names for the drug on here. We got Snappers, Boppers, Shoot the Breeze, Medusa, and Air Blast. Those sound like Gatorade flavors or something. It's very interesting. It's all very like 2004. Anyway, back to the video now. So if you have never seen Drug-Free World materials, consider yourself lucky. Drug-Free World goes way beyond the standard D.A.R.E program scaremongering that most people get as kids. In terms of anti-drug propaganda that kids get, Drug-Free World is one of the most bizarre, over-the-top, and dangerously incorrect things I've ever seen. The big difference between Drug-Free World and D.A.R.E is that, unlike D.A.R.E, it doesn't just contain dangerously bad misinformation. Drug-Free World materials seem to be completely dissociated from any concept of truth whatsoever. Of course, it is always better to show than to tell, so let's have a look at one of my favorite pamphlets that Drug-Free World has released called The Truth About Drugs. They have some sort of filter over the pictures of drug users to make them look like monstrous zombies. They turn up the contrast as much as they can to emphasize the dark lines under the eyes. And it looks like they may have even misted the skin of the model in the picture to make them look sweatier and greasier. Now, actually, I want to demonstrate exactly how easy it is to make a photo that looks like this, taking a reasonably normal and healthy person and then making them look awful. So I'm going to cut over to Future Will to show you exactly how that works. So first of all, you just give your skin a light mist. Fucking crazy. Like that. Okay, cool. Pop on a hoodie for good effect. Okay, yep, that's looking good. Hang on, fuck up my hair a little bit. This is important. You wanna turn up the lighting. Let's get a little more misty. Okay. Now give it a deadpan expression. Then we simply adjust the contrast, change the hue, and there we go. All right, all done. And there we are. A photograph of a degenerate drug user has been turned into a photograph of a degenerate drug user that would appear in a drug-free world pamphlet. Over on the second page, we have another very heavily filtered picture. I think the filter here was supposed to make her look like a crocodile user or something, but it actually just looks like the page got wet and then it dried out. Here we have the section on drug culture. According to Drug-Free World, and this is something they repeat, drug use just didn't exist before the 60s. You know, my audience is intelligent, and I know that you guys are intellectuals, so I know that you know before the 60s, this is absolutely correct. There just was no drug use. Drugs were not a part of our culture in any way. There were no references in media to drug use before the 60s. Nobody drank, nobody did anything. There were just no drugs. It just did not occur to anyone that you could use psychoactive substances before 1960.
Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
It's a few more pages of pretty standard drug propaganda until we get to the real gold of this pamphlet. Until we get to the real gold, the real juicy stuff. This is the good stuff. This is truly groundbreaking information. It seems that Drug-Free World has made some sort of scientific breakthrough that just has not been accepted by the rest of the academic and scientific community. Personally, I think it's that the coastal elites in their ivory towers don't want to accept the real science, the real truth. I present to you the Drug-Free World theory of pharmacology. Drugs are essentially poisons. The amount taken determines the effect. A small amount acts as a stimulant, speeds you up. A greater amount acts as a sedative, slows you down. An even larger amount poisons and can kill. This is true of any drug. Okay, so that's completely wrong. Completely and absolutely incorrect. Not all drugs are stimulants in low doses and sedatives in high doses and lethal in higher doses. Some drugs are just stimulants or just sedatives, or they have complex effects that just can't be neatly categorized into one of those two options. In fact, very, very few drugs work this way. This is not true of any drug. It's true of almost no drugs. In fact, the only drug I can even think of that has this low-dose stimulant, high-dose sedative effect is nicotine. There's something called Nesbitt's paradox, which is named after the Dr. Nesbitt, the man who described it. So nicotine does have a low-dose stimulant effect and a high-dose sedative effect, but it's called Nesbitt's paradox because of how fucking weird that is and unusual. It's a very strange and bizarre effect compared to how most other drugs work. So already we're beginning to get a taste of exactly how strange Drug-Free World's information is. I don't even know where they would have gotten this information or why they wrote that down. You know, I'm assuming they did research somewhere, or they maybe interviewed some sort of doctor or they must have gotten that information from somewhere, right? But really the only explanation I can think of is that they just straight up made it up. They were just writing stuff just based on little to no actual information. Let's investigate the rest of this pamphlet and see what other sorts of delightful and well-researched information we can pull out. Drugs block off all sensations, the desirable ones along with the unwanted. So, while providing short-term help in the relief of pain, they also wipe out the ability and alertness and muddy one's thinking. No. So not all drugs work by blocking out sensation. In fact, many drugs work the opposite way. They actually intensify certain sensations, or they modify sensory input and amplify it. Okay, let's just power through here. Let's just rapid fire round. Normally, when you gotta pull down the glasses. Normally, when a person remembers something, the mind is very fast, and information comes to him quickly. But drugs blur memory, causing blank spots. When a person tries to get information through this cloudy mess, he can't do it. Drugs make a person feel slow or stupid and cause him to have failures in life. And as he has more failures and life gets harder, he wants to do more drugs to help him deal with the problem. Is it just me or is this terribly written? Like the sentence, drugs make a person feel slow or stupid and cause him to have failures in life. Drugs make a person feel slow or stupid and cause him to have failures in life. The sentence, drugs make a person feel slow or stupid and cause him to have failures in life. Drugs make a person feel slow or stupid and cause him to have failures in life. Drugs make a person feel slow or stupid and cause him to have failures in life. Like drugs make a person feel slow or stupid and cause a person to feel slow or stupid. So the sentence, drugs make a person feel slow or stupid and cause him to have failures in life, is really awkward phrasing. It's very staccato, very choppy. Let's rewrite this. Let's just say, drugs dumb you down and cause problems in life. Sorry, I'm an editor. I can't help it. I just need to fix these things. So anyway, forgetting the bad writing, the point here is that drugs cause your memory to fail so badly that your life falls apart, which then drives you to use more drugs, I guess? And again, that's just obviously not true. So the truth to this is that heavy use of certain drugs can cause memory problems. For instance, if you get blackout drunk one night, you're gonna wake up the next morning and not remember anything, right? But that effect is just limited to the duration of the drug. So once the alcohol wears off, then you can form memories again normally. Now, of course, some drugs can actually have real consequences for memory, like long-term, maybe even when you're sober, they can still be affecting you. For instance, this is something that happens with heavy daily cannabis use. However, even the most hardcore stoners don't usually have such bad memory problems that it ruins their life. Anyway, this pamphlet is pretty long. It goes on and 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 on. The pamphlet describes a bunch of different drugs and their effects, but needless to say, it's all nonsense. Anyway, before we move on from this pamphlet and talk about Drug Free World as an organization, I want to just share one little quote that I found, a little tasty treat that I found in this pamphlet. So this is some knowledge I just wanted to impart on you before we move on. Ecstasy made me crazy. One day, I bit glass. Okay, ecstasy made me crazy. One day, I bit glass, just like I would have bitten an apple. I had to have my mouth full of pieces of glass to realize what was happening to me. Another time, I tore rags with my teeth for over an hour. So I've taken a lot of Molly in my day. I've had some pretty crazy effects from it, right? I've danced for 5-6 hours straight. I've told strangers that I loved them. However, in all that time, I have never bitten into glass like an apple. Hey, maybe it was bad Molly, maybe you gotta get the really top shelf stuff to be biting into glass, but I'm pretty sure it's not a typical effect. All of their drug experience anecdotes are like this too. They're all this crazy. Drug-Free World has something of a pattern in their propaganda. They take something that's true, something that is mostly factual, and then they stretch it and push it and exaggerate it and mix in actual full-blown lies until it becomes completely diluted and completely false. So, for instance, regarding the anecdote about ecstasy making you chew glass, MDMA can actually cause bruxism or tooth grinding, but most users simply relieve that by chewing gum. But no otherwise sane MDMA user would bite into glass like they would food, even on a dangerously high dose. Even if they were on a ton of Molly, no one would ever do that. Not all of their lies are as obvious as the ecstasy glass chewing thing. They do things in a more subtle way sometimes too. For instance, under the heroin section of the pamphlet, they say that heroin can cause a spontaneous abortion. First of all, there's no such thing as a spontaneous abortion. You either have an abortion which is intentional and planned, or a miscarriage. And yes, heroin can cause miscarriage, usually when the mother is overdosing, but that's not common, and it's certainly not the same thing as an abortion. The reason that they're using the term spontaneous abortion is because abortion is a politically charged term that conjures up a lot of negative imagery. Another lie, they list Prozac and other antidepressants as common drugs of abuse. So to be clear, nobody has ever gotten high off of Prozac. You have to take it for weeks just to get the basic antidepressant effect, and at no point do you ever get any kind of intense euphoria that might lead to addiction. Addiction is characterized by compulsive drug-seeking behaviors. Nobody is robbing a 7-Eleven to pay for their Prozac habit. So not only are these lies, these are dangerous lies. I can see a situation where a kid might read this pamphlet and think, oh wow, I didn't know that Prozac could get you high, and then take a dangerously high dose to try and get high. I can see a situation where a desperate pregnant teenager would try taking a borderline overdose of heroin to abort the pregnancy. I can see people reading this pamphlet and thinking that they can take high doses of ADHD medication like Adderall to fall asleep because, after all drugs are sedatives in high doses. But all of those scenarios are pretty unlikely. The real problem with this pamphlet is that it pushes stigmatization. There is a reason that Drug-Free World has to edit its photos so much. There's a reason that all of their media looks gritty and rough and dirty. There is a reason that everyone in their commercials is wearing a hoodie. It's because they are intentionally trying to make drug users look scary. They are intentionally spreading lies to stigmatize drug use and drug users. This campaign isn't designed to educate kids about drug use. It is designed to serve as propaganda to generate public support for the drug war, because it is not a war on drugs, it is a war on drug users. And like any war, you have to convince the public that your enemy is subhuman. You have to convince them that they are dirty, disgusting, and deserving of death. This type of propaganda is how you justify violence against drug users. This is how you justify state-sanctioned murder and mass incarceration. Now you may be thinking to yourself, Will, you're exaggerating. That probably isn't their intention. They're probably not intentionally trying to make bad propaganda to support the drug war. That may be the result of their actions, but it isn't their intention. They're probably actually convinced that they are educating kids or whatever. Now, if you think that, that's valid. That's also what I thought at first. However, I'd like to direct you to their promotional video.
In Mexico City, Drug-Free World partners with the Auxiliary Security Forces for the state of Mexico, receiving more than 4,000 booklets pertaining to the principal drugs in their territory. They in turn deploy with precision, distributing literal truckloads of booklets all over the city, which is how Drug-Free World infused nearly 250,000 booklets and thereby assisted the state of Mexico in a war against drugs. In a war against drugs. In a war against drugs. In a war against drugs.
These booklets, these pamphlets, this information is being handed out to win hearts and minds for a literal war going on in Mexico.
In a war against
Pause right there. Do you see that letter? It's signed by Commander Benjamin Salvador Jimenez of the Mexico City Auxiliary Forces. Those forces are so notoriously corrupt that it's actually been studied by sociologists. One study found that Mexico City residents spend about 8% of their income on bribes to those forces. In fact, Commander Jimenez is quoted on the website for the cult of Scientology talking about how amazing the cult's founder, L. Ron Hubbard, was at curing addiction. Oh, by the way, this whole thing is funded by Scientology. For those of you who don't know, Scientology is a very infamous cult. I highly recommend that you look into Leah Remini, who is a former member of the cult. There are a number of documentaries out there and interviews with her. But this is a true cult, and it has international influence. So, I want to pose a question to you. How desperate do you think the architects of the war on drugs are when they are now turning to cults to fund their propaganda? And if you notice the propaganda, lies, deception, and cultishness of drug-free world, that's probably because the people who pay for it are literally a cult. Cults just love pamphlets, don't they? So why should we accept this? Why should we accept misinformation being spread by a cult in public schools? Children in our school systems, paid for by your taxpayer dollars, are being spoon-fed propaganda designed by a cult to justify a violent war. That war hurts everyone. It hurts you, it hurts drug users, it hurts addicts, it hurts everyone. When you or I look at this pamphlet, obviously we understand that MDMA doesn't actually make you eat glass. We understand that this is misinformation. We understand that this is wrong. In fact, we understand that it is laughably wrong. It's funny how bad it is. But for the kids who are seeing these pamphlets, and for the parents who maybe don't have the same experience with drugs or the same education, those people are going to read these things and take them at face value. They're going to think it's true. And we cannot afford to have a misinformed public who are not aware of the realities of drug use, the realities of addiction, the realities of the drug war. The drug war has persisted for as long as it has because we have allowed misinformation like this to fester and spread. But it's time to stop this. It's time to stop spreading propaganda and misinformation and start spreading the truth. Now, if you support that mission, if you think it's time to fight back against that propaganda and start spreading the truth, then subscribe to my channel. Please, subscribe to my channel. Consider going to my Patreon and donating whatever you can. The link is in the bio. But if you can't do any of that, but you like the video, then at the very least, there is a button on youtube.com that you can use to reflect that fact. Smash that like button.
I need you to smash that like button!
So hit that thumbs up, test your drugs, take care of yourself, and stay safe. Goodbye. Hello folks, it's Will from the editing room. Sorry for the weird bad camera and stuff. I'm recording on my webcam, so this is probably a pretty bad camera and the microphone quality might be weird. Anyway, turns out that there is a much deeper connection between the Drug Free World Foundation and Scientology than I initially thought. And in fact, there is a much deeper connection between those two organizations and a number of other organizations, many of which have been blamed for deaths. Basically, the story is a lot more deep and sordid and disturbing than I thought it was. And I don't feel like I quite dug into the cult connection enough in this video, so I'm going to make a future video where I do dig into that connection a lot deeper. And that's probably going to be one of the next few videos I put out where I look into all of the details regarding that, because the more research I've been doing, the more alarming stuff I'm digging up. So I'll see you then during that video.